Hey, everybody. I'm Suzanne Carowin. Welcome to the Boy Mom Podcast. I'm super excited today to have two of my favorite people that I've met along the journey. So, welcome, Karla, and welcome, Kai. And I want to welcome everybody, and I'd love to have you guys. I'll start first with you, Karla. Why don't you introduce yourself and where you're from, and give a little flavor about you, and then Kai will turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I'm Karla Larson. I'm Kyson's mother. Boy, that's a loaded question. So, born in California, raised in Jersey and Florida predominantly, and then we ended up here in Columbus, Ohio, through a few job changes. And I work for Honda, so I've been in logistics for about 26 years, and I work for Honda Logistics now over in Marysville, Ohio.
I'm Kai. Thanks for having us, Suzanne. I'm a third year student at Hope College in Holland, Michigan. I've lived in Ohio for about 8 years, and I've known the Carowinds for 7. So.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's true. That's true. How do we all meet? How do we all come together? What's our story?
I met you. It was like the meet and greet. I don't remember the restaurant for St. Paul's, and you guys had just moved over from Dublin.
Yep. That's true. That's true. Yep.
So lacrosse is basically
middle school lacrosse.
Yeah,
sure. Middle school lacrosse. Oh my God, the glory days of middle school lacrosse. All right, so Karla, tell me about kind of your pregnancy with Kai, what you remember, and then do you feel like that was your start of motherhood, or when he was actually born? I always like to ask that question because.
Yeah. So my pregnancy with Kai, I was big. He was like down in my like his head was down, ready to come out from the moment I got pregnant. I think he probably kicked me, but that's about it. And one kind of fun fact, this is kind of funny, that I used to love to watch Kill Bill, like a Tarantino movie. I was not into those movies, so I told him.
But while you're pregnant, that was like you had some violent streak.
Yes, it was very interesting, which kind of explains my child. But yeah, so it was a good pregnancy. Actually, I got in there. It was a long day. His father was going overseas, and we wanted to make sure he was here in town. That was in Florida. I'd make sure he was here in town when we had him. So we scheduled it for April 5th. Got there at 6 a.m. I didn't have him till 7:57 p.m. But it was like a party. So my sister, my best friend, my aunts and uncles, my dad, they all hung out. We watched movies all day. And I thought I was going to do this with no epidural. I was like, I got this. And then they said, they came in and they're like, yeah, you're not dilated enough. And you're having him today. So we're going to go ahead and, what is it called? When they make you dilate.
Yeah. They induced you. They induced you. They're like, they're ready to.
Yeah, so I got induced and I hit the ceiling. I was like, bring on the needle. Holy moly. Like, I thought I was a champ all day. I felt nothing. I'm like, it's little cramps, whatever. Oh, it was horrible. Gave me that injection. I think I pushed twice. And
he was there.
Just flew out. Yes.
And then do you remember holding him in your arms? Did you talk to him in the womb?
Oh, yeah, all the time, for sure. It's funny. I talked to him. I'll tell you another funny story later.
Yeah, but, people don't know this. See, Kai, you didn't know that. See, that's why I asked that, because most, we only count you as like your age, from the time you're born. But right, for a mom, you've been around for 9 months plus. Like, you got all that time, mental time, the mom's talking to you.
Mm. Yeah. So, and it's funny because even after I had him and we go grocery shopping, I talked to him. He's like 6, 7 months old. And I had this man come up to me and goes, I'm so happy. I'm not the only one who talks to my infant and they can't talk back. And I was like, didn't even realize I was doing it. It obviously was. So I was like, it's kind of funny. But yeah, it's kind of why he's a talker too. So.
Yeah, right. So you've just been talked to Kai your whole life, right? Kai, do you remember your earliest memory of your mom?
Oh, man. My mom.
You had to dial that back?
Yeah, I got to think about that for a second. Probably like, it's like one of those like dream type of memories, but I remember swinging, like in the swing where you're like in it, you're like sitting in the swing and being pushed.
Yeah.
Like I was outside a lot with my mom and her sister and my grandma, her mom.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So Kai, what was your childhood like?
Oh, it was an interesting childhood for sure because growing up in a split home, like my parents not living in the same house, going between the houses was definitely a unique experience, and nothing can really prepare a child for that. Uh, but it was really fun because they knew that it wasn't going to be easy, so they tried their hardest to make it the best possible experience. And I obviously see that now. I probably didn't see it as much when I was younger, but
Well, you don't have any brain, so in all fairness, your brain has to grow. Your brain's
yeah,
still growing now. Like men are like till 30 or something. You still have excuses.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Excuses,
awesome.
yeah. But yeah, the moving was tough. It definitely prepared me for being an adult and kind of building the social skills and the adaptability that I really didn't have. The first 9 years of my life when I lived in the same place, was around the same people, and then going into middle school, it really developed me into the person I am today with recognizing, how people interact with each other, why are people the way they are, and that kind of funneled me into my career path, which is I want to be a therapist, and I'm studying psychology right now. So
Mhm.
really fascinated with how people interact with each other and how people become who they are. So
So, Carla, do you feel like you had a game plan as a mom? Like, did you have a game plan for him, like how you're going to raise him, or what you're going to do? Because you had a
Whew.
sister, you have a mom, right?
Yeah.
You don't really have any boys around.
No. No. Yeah. That was a tough one because my father was in California for most of my life, and we were on the East Coast. So when I had a boy, it was definitely something I had to teach my mom and my aunt a little bit about because it was my mom, my aunt, my grandma, my sister, and I. That's
Oh
it.
wow, you
And
had like the hen house. You grew up in hen house, yeah.
he did.
oh yeah.
I did, and then he did. So, yeah, I mean, I had my uncles every summer. I'd go see with my aunt and uncle up in New Jersey, which was great. But yeah, it was definitely a transition. There could be no male bashing, no, if you will, when you're in a
Oh yeah.
household full of women. I realized it
Ooh.
like I didn't realize it at the time, but after I had him, I was like, yeah, it brought me to a different level of thinking, and so I definitely made sure that he had positive male role models around, because his dad, he was in the military, so he was kind of gone half the
Yeah.
time when he was a baby. um but it was a change. It was definitely something we had to get used to.
Well, so what do you mean by that? Can we talk about that for a second? So you're saying you intentionally kind of sought out other male role models for Kai, so he had kind of male influences around.
Well, he had his dad when he was around because he was
Sure, he's
always
military, he's
overseas.
deployed or
But
whatever. Yeah.
all of my girlfriends that I've grown up with and best friends since seventh grade are all married,
Okay.
into wonderful people, and so they've always had a place in his heart as well. But
Okay.
also, 4 years old, my dad passed away when Kai just turned 5. So my dad moved to Florida, so we get him around. And then when he
Oh,
passed away, I got him into karate and soccer, and he was always doing something, just because it was just me and him,
I
really.
needed to. I couldn't. I was getting into trouble. I needed some physical activity,
you're a
and
boy, right?
Yeah,
You're a
right.
boy.
Yeah, my
Yes.
mom watched him until he was about 2, and
they
then
did
she
not
was.
know. They didn't know any better at all. It was a culture shock for sure. I was the prince
Yes,
of the
they
Yeah.
called him
family.
Prince
Oh,
Kai.
there it is. Here it is. That's true.
Yes,
There's the other side of that. So
Yeah.
you got
yes.
doted on, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I was spoiled. I was a
he
spoiled brat.
yes,
Yeah.
for sure. And when he turned 2, my mom was like, I don't know what to do with
Tapped
him
out.
because he had 2 girls. She had 2 girls that would sit and watch TV with her, and
Yeah.
he wants to climb trees.
Build forts. I used to build
Yeah.
forts every
Oh,
Saturday with her
we
and
had
watch
yes,
Cartoon Network.
yes, blanket forts all
Boomerang.
over the dining
Yeah.
room, living
Yeah.
room.
Yeah. Blanket forts rock. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So fun
Very
stuff.
different, right? I know. It's people. I think that again, we've underestimated as a society. Like boys are very uniquely boys. They have so much energy, so
Yes.
they don't sit still.
And I was working full time and finishing school, and so my babysitter was Lego sets. I mean, he would
Yeah.
sit there and build these Legos for 2, 3 hours, and it was
You paused for a second there. So you said he would build Lego sets and then what?
Oh yeah, no, that. It was going to karate, it was going to soccer, basketball, and then the Legos when we were home was like my savior, if
Here's
you
your
will.
go-to.
Yeah.
So what did you think that, I mean, what were you trying to do with all the sports and everything else, right? Was it just keeping him busy?
That and just in shape for sure. Like he just we kind of joke. My dad, when he was younger, they'd call the cops on him to said he was weightlifting. Like they always have masculine body, like bodies that build muscle, and he was just always on the go. Like you just couldn't stop him. So I didn't want him running around the neighborhood, which he did for a moment, a little bit in time, and it's some interesting jokes. We have some stories from that, but just keeping him busy. You know, when if I was at work, it was like 6 to 6, and so
Mhm.
I just by the time I got home, I was exhausted, and I needed him to do something, and he locks in when he likes something, he locks into it. And karate, we would take 3 classes a night. I would be there till like 9 o'clock at night, and it was okay because I could sit with my computer and do something, or and I
Right.
could just it felt good to see him just enjoying something, you
Yeah.
know, that I was
Yeah.
totally exhausted. I could never keep him
You're flatlining
busy.
and he's like getting more and more hyper.
Yes. Yes.
Kai, what did you, I mean, you remember then karate, like how far in that did you go?
So I started when I was 4,
5.
5.
Yeah.
I started when I was I don't know. I started when I was 5.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So,
And I remember going in there and I was talking to the sensei or the guy who ran the dojo at the time. Master Ekom was his name, and uh, he was like, you can hop out there in the class right now and give it a shot. And so I went out there and I did the bow, and then I just jumped into the splits. And my dad's always been very active. He's probably the one that instilled like the physicality aspect because he's a CrossFit coach and owns a CrossFit gym. Was in the military for 20 years, like taught Muay Thai, did jujitsu. And so the fight was always kind of in me. And I didn't really know until I got out there on the mat. And I
oh,
just fell in love with
interesting.
it. I would fight the instructors because the kids, they were like, they don't want me to spar the kids.
Oh, got it.
And it was like funny because like they would throw me around and I would get back up and I'd be so riled up. I would start kicking and punching, and yeah, like my mom said, 3 classes. It was like an addiction. It was like I couldn't get enough of it. And I'm sure when I was done with class, I was trying to stay later, and I'm sure I went home and then did my routine and Taekwondo, because that's what we did. Uh, there's routines, there's forms, there's technique. And so I'll probably try to go home for an hour plus and try to do that. My mom's like, you probably need to go to bed. But yeah, karate was a big part of my life. I was in that for 4 years. I got my black belt in 4 years, and I quit for a couple months at some point
Mhm.
there. It was kind of like a burnout thing, I
Mhm.
think, a little bit, but it was my own doing. It wasn't my mom's fault, but it was definitely me.
She did
Uh,
her part. She got you there
yeah,
and paid.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, it was tough for her to hear because, like she said, this was a big thing for her, like being able to not have to come home and deal with me. And so when I wasn't going to karate or taekwondo, it's like, what do we do with Kai? Like he's
Right.
all over the place. So
Right. Right. Well, what do you think you learned from those lessons? What have you really taken from your martial arts piece into your, young adult life?
yeah, the discipline, I think, body awareness too, uh, and also as a man and as a boy, from what I've learned in the past since COVID, when I've been doing a lot of work with my dad on like how to become a man of God and what does it mean to be a man, not being afraid to fight. Doesn't mean physical, doesn't mean you're looking for a fight, but the ability to defend yourself and the things that you care about, I think, is very important. I think that's the biggest lesson I learned. Obviously, the emotional aspect of it needs to come. It comes later, right? Because if you take that the wrong way, then you'll be getting into fights all the time. But which I feel like I did a good job of. I never really got into fights in school or anything. With my
Mhm.
friends, is a different story.
Yeah.
But because I was always beating up on my friends, but they never beating up on me. But yeah, I think discipline and then the confidence. I think the confidence really, really was something else too. And dignity. I mean, they had like
Right.
integrity, dignity, courage, discipline, like on their wall.
Sure.
but it didn't really, I think integrity, dignity, and discipline were the three that really stood out to me.
So, I mean, Carla, talk to me about that one for a little bit. So, here you are, you've got a very female dominant household and everything around him. And now you've got this boy who's growing into, a young man. How did you recognize that and give him that space to do it? Or was it like that was your piece? Like, how did you kind of handle some of those pieces? Or were you like still kind of overly mothering him and
I'm
like,
a little, yeah, I'm a
She's
little
a
controlling.
helicopter.
I'm a little
little
controlling.
helicopter?
I say what?
You hear those blades going?
I've done a really good job since he's been in college. I really have. But for the
Okay.
the
So
karate
you're
part,
like you're saying you were a helicopter mom all the way through high school, and then
yeah,
he got to college and he moved away, so you had no choice.
right, exactly. But it was actually he'd call and be like, "So are you gonna come up here?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Maybe eventually, like." So he missed it. He missed it a little bit. Like I prayed about it a lot because he needed to spread his wings and go. He had the ability. Like going to Catholic school predominantly his entire life, just the memorization from karate and from being in Catholic school, I think helps kids just succeed. Like it's just I feel like he just got it better. I mean, his dad's very smart. I had really struggled in school myself. I mean, I finally pushed through and got through my master's, but his his dad has that like quick common sense smart where he could just learn quickly, and so I think that's just like I got from it. And I think just having that disability, the discipline, and just focus. Like I said, when he wants to do something, he locks in, and I think he's done well in college now because I'm not helping him doing anything. Like he's doing everything. Like you talk about Blake and they just do it all, right? And it's kind of nice. I think we've done our job, but it's hard to let go. It's hard to be like, yeah, okay, you're doing okay. You're sure you're doing okay? Everything's good,
right.
yeah. And then but it feels good too, right? That that they're on their own and they can fly alone, if you will.
Yeah, the right. Well, I mean, hopefully that was the goal, right?
Right,
Was to actually make them into men and not into, your friend who's staying with you
right,
watching, watching TV. But it's
right.
still hard. I mean, listen, the day that one of my kids could put on their own seatbelt and we could get rid of those awful car seats and everything else, and like they could actually buckle in themselves, I cried. I was like, this is like the
Yeah.
best day ever, right? And then it was like, that's the best thing. But then you're sad, but and then it's like, oh, that's great. Like keep
Hmm.
going, keep going.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm still like, this is a big one I'm on right now. Are you sure you know what you're doing and graduating from college? Like, are you sure you got enough credits? Are you sure? Because I don't want to hear at the last minute. Ooh,
Right.
forgot it, right? Forgot a requirement or something, right? Oh no, mom, I've got it. I've got it. Right. So it's
Yeah.
just, and
Until
then
that
I
letter
still get,
comes and you're like, wait, what?
yeah, I know. I'm still like fingers crossed. But then I'll get a call that's like, hey, how do I open the Benadryl? Right. So I mean, like, it's that combo.
Yes, there are a few
It's
things, definitely. I mean, it has been this May, him being home it's been probably the best time I think for myself with him and like where we're at with each other. It's been really, really wonderful. It's been really nice. We've gone through a lot of stressors through high school and pushing through a lot of diversity and things that happen, but it's nice to come out on the other side because we always say we can see the end of the tunnel, but are we ever going to get there? And I feel like, of course, there's always work that's going to be done for everybody as we grow, but I think we're seeing that light at the end. So it's been a pretty awesome trip. We went golfing the other day, which
oh, that's
he golfed. I don't know what I was doing, but I was trying.
you were there and present. You were
Right.
present. You're
Actually,
participating.
we ran into Brady Ayers, who he said
Uh-huh.
he's doing stuff with you, and we're like, oh my god, that's
Yep.
so funny.
Small world. Well, I was
Yeah.
just going to give a shout out to Kim Groob, another DeSales mom out there in the lacrosse circuit. And I remember really clear as day, we were at like, I don't know, the end of the season and it's the end of the school year. And anyway, all these moms are crying that their sons are, their last lacrosse game or graduating or whatever. And Kim Groob turned to me because both our sons were in the class of 2022, and she said, Suzanne, because she has older kids, she goes, all these moms are constantly crying about the childhood like being ended. She's like, it's awesome having adult children. She's like, nobody's like talking about how incredibly awesome it is to get into, right, when you actually have now an adult kid in college or whatever, and how much fun that can be.
Yeah.
And that's always stuck with me. I think we've really stuck, and it sounds like you guys are getting to that point, right? Where
Yeah.
you can actually just start to laugh at things and look back, and you actually have perspective,
Right.
a little perspective. So, I mean,
Yeah.
from that, Kai, I mean, what would you say, what would you say is kind of like the most important values you think your mother specifically has taught you that you'd say, like, gosh, I can hear her in my head? And it could be
Um,
good stuff and bad stuff too. I mean, it could be like, her little
yeah,
plug into the snowshoe.
yeah. So I come from a long lineage of people pleasers, and that instilled a lot of values in me that was compassionate and considerate and kind. One of the things that's kind of burned in my head is just do it to do it. Don't do it for anything in return. Don't expect anything back.
Ah,
And another thing is like unconditional love. I think that, obviously, you get into college and you start thinking, okay, well, I'm away from my family. You're like, I should probably start looking pretty seriously for a girl at this point. And you really don't understand like what that requires until you really look back at like your relationship with your parents. I feel like, and with my mom, like I could spit in her face and she would, still do everything for me. And, you know, that comes with the good things for me and bad things for her, but I think that was a big thing that my mom taught me. Another thing too is just honesty. She
mm,
might have been a little too honest with me as a kid with some things, but other than that, the transparency is a big thing. Like I tell my mom everything, and I'm at the point now with my dad and my stepmom where they also know everything that's going on in my life that's important to
mhm,
me if I want them to know, right?
mhm.
Um, and I think that that's something that not a lot of people have that I know personally. Not a lot of people have transparency with their family and trust their
Mm.
parents. So I think that those are a few things that my mom did a good job of.
Wow, that's quite flattering, Carla.
Yeah,
That's quite a
I know.
flattering.
Now I'm waiting for the other shoe.
yeah. I don't want
What
to
else?
look at her because I don't want to see a tear coming
It
down.
is on my
I know
face.
exactly. I know. You're making me cry. But I mean, that's ideal, right? I mean, that's fantastic that you've been able to have. Now, have you always, I mean, I know you guys are the, you're the only Kai, but have you had periods when you've had like some friction between you, or is everything always just, you've always just been kind of like the two of you and you guys
Oh,
against
there's
the
always
world?
friction.
Yeah.
No, there's always
So,
friction.
my family's from Jersey. So when his friends used to come over, they were like, why is your mom screaming at you? And he's like, she's just talking to me. Like, we're just a loud
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
And, and he can push back and I can push back. But it's not, we don't ever get to the point where we don't talk to each other. We may need a little moment away. And that's something I've really instilled with him, is even from a little boy, and we talk about it all the time, but he can get mad and he can go to his room for 2 minutes, but then he's coming out and we're going to talk about it. He's
Mm,
not going to shut me out. And he's worked a lot on that because he has, going through a lot of different things, especially the teenage years where he has, but then he'll come back around, and it's give him that little space to just kind of reflect on it, right? Like I'm not a very shoot from the hip kind of person. I usually, when he asks me something, he knows I need like 24 hours to let it kind of sink in for me to like think about it. He'll ask me, "Hey, can we do this?" I'm like, let me sit back on it for a minute. Let me think about
oh,
it.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those are phenomenal coping skills, right? I mean, like that's hugely important. So, I mean, I want to go back to something else that you said, Kai, because I think you're saying this. I want to just confirm, because also, given everything you've said about, you have, you're doted on, you're kind of the prince, everything else, you could really take advantage of that too. I mean, you really could have come out like a huge brat. You could have, right? So, how did you not become a huge brat? Like, what do you think stopped it? Like, how did you say, like, you've got all that
I'm gonna
power over all
smile.
those people, right? I mean,
Yeah.
did you learn like you shouldn't take advantage of that with women
Yeah.
kind of thing?
I think that
He's
the
learned.
yeah. the one thing that I will say that the only reason that I am where I am today, unfortunately, like not unfortunately, but fortunately, but it doesn't have a lot to do with my mom. Unfortunately, is my involvement of my dad in my life. I think that during COVID, so the year before COVID, we had like some life altering things happen with that side of the family, with my dad
Mhm.
specifically, and it really kind of opened Pandora's box, I guess, for growth, but also for a lot of hard things. And it was at that point where following in the following spring 2020, where me and my dad started really building a relationship, that I realized what I had subconsciously been doing. I think I had been taking advantage of these women in my
Ah,
life. I think that, I would play it. I would play my cards right. I would push it just enough to where like it wasn't, and everybody will tell you that. Everybody will tell you that I push it to the limit. And I'm a button pusher, and I get what I want. And the only thing that really stopped that, and I'm still kind of like that now, but one of the things that really deterred me and made me who I am today is my dad's involvement. Like, he really showed me how to interact with women, because previously he had also been doing what I've been doing. So it was a hard position because I was kind of being conditioned to be like that, but also I was learning from my dad, taking advantage of people and making it a selfish need instead of like accepting, if that makes sense. Like,
mm,
instead of
it
just
does make
accepting the
sense.
love, like you're taking it. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my answer, is probably my dad's involvement. But
I think also therapy.
oh yeah, therapy's a massive one.
I mean, when you go to, I always say that when you go to a third party,
Mm.
not that they don't care about you, but they're going to tell you exactly what they see.
Mhm.
And and his therapist
Someone
And
jump
they
on
don't
you.
have an
yes,
agenda. Right, they don't have an
right.
Yes.
agenda,
But
right?
and you're not hurting your heart. It's not your
Right.
family. Like this is like working out. I can't work out with my son. I can't work out with my ex. Like because they can't tell me to do something. Like that's just it's that whole love. No. So, but his therapist basically pointed out like what he was doing, and it could have been him doing it, but not like subconsciously realizing it. And then when you
Got it.
kind of put it into words for him, it kind of woke him up. Like I am doing this. Like I am. My mom is here living in my world
Mhm.
instead of I mean, and that's why I think I enjoy him more as he gets older, is because he is putting the work in, and it's just enjoyable now where it's not about Kai's world. Because he's very sensitive in all aspects, so he cares about everybody and he cares what people think, but he can also play the what's it, Marat, the like a puppet, if you will,
Mhm.
to
Yep.
his advantage. Yeah.
But I mean, that's like incredibly articulate, and thank you for the candor of all those things, because I mean, let me just give you a little hats off on that. I mean, it's really just courageous to talk that way and be able to talk about yourself and how much work you've put into yourself. So, I mean, now you find yourself, right? I mean, how would you describe yourself, Kai? Do you feel like you're a
Yeah,
Changed man.
yeah,
Continually.
I think it just goes back to just the slow growth since COVID. Uh, it's weird because it felt like I never really knew my dad, you know,
Mhm.
and it was going through that experience where I got to know my dad, and I really didn't even know my mom that well either. And it was kind of a push pull of, me trying to be a man, but then still like being in this helicopter situation where it's like I'm being held hostage, like you're still my little boy, and what do you mean you're doing these things, and don't do that, and do you need money, and it's like, what can we do for you? And it's just, it was really hard to break out of that, but I think going to college really helped, because obviously I'm not in my dad's world or my mom's world anymore. I'm in my world, which ironically like kind of goes against what we just said, but uh
In a different way,
but
though. In a
yeah,
different
but
way,
Yeah,
but
it's a
right?
but
different
yeah,
light
but
for
it's
sure.
it's it's definitely more of like I get to choose to uh to be loyal to people, and to take discipline, and to be obedient and compassionate instead of feeling like you have to. If
Mhm.
that makes any sense. And
Well, it
that was
sounds like you're accountable now. You're accountable to you,
yeah. Oh
right?
yeah,
And when you're not
100%.
when you're the prince, you can do whatever you want. You're not really that accountable, but it's
Yeah.
now you. So if you hurt people, you hurt them by choice, right? You had a
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. So accountability is a big one. And honesty with myself and other people. I think that I really have become an honest person to the best of my ability with what I have right now. But overall, you know, you kind of you know a little bit of what I went through in high school. It's the resilience, not playing the victim. I played the victim for a long time because when you're the prince, when you're supposed to be this guy with a lot of status and ego, you can't do anything wrong. And why are people doing these things to you? But then that like, the aspect of accountability, and I did make a mistake, and I'm doing my best to repent of that and also make amends. And that's that. Don't linger on it. And that's kind of what I did for a long time. And so the resilience aspect too was a big part of my growth and where I'm at now. So yeah.
And he also
And
got
so,
to see his that 2000 time frame where the other side of the family kind of went through a whirlwind. He got to see God's work
Yeah.
and miracles happen within people. That we say you can't change people, and we can't as human beings, we can't, but the Lord can, and he's seen that, and it's just been a beautiful thing. So I think that's been a huge helping with him to witness that, and then to know that there's positivity out of this. That his dad's gonna be good, and then he can follow suit. So I think it's been a good thing.
so talk to me. I mean, how have you done that? Like, how did you introduce? I mean, have you just always had prayer in your life, and you've always had that in your life? And how have you done that with a boy? Because it's hard. I think it's hard. Maybe it's just me.
So when we moved to St. John, Indiana, so we were in Florida for 9, moved to St. John, Indiana, and then to Detroit, and then to Columbus. We're in St.
Where the
John.
heck is St. John, Indiana?
It's like right on the border, and then you get into Chicago. It's like
Oh,
almost by
okay.
Gary, if you will, but
Okay,
not.
got it.
But there's a beautiful church there, and he went to school there, and they went to church. He went to church 3 days a week. Like, he was professing Jesus to the neighbors' kids. Like, he just has always been strong in his faith. And then just staying in Catholic school, and then just having the prayer. His father, not so much. His stepmom really got heavy into her faith, and then that 2020, his dad really brought the Lord into his life. And I think seeing him walk through, you can be, like we say, cradle Catholics. You can be born into being a Catholic, but do you really embrace it? And looking at his father, who was like atheist, but then not, and then actually walking that walk and seeing it come to fruition, I think really strengthened his faith as well. I mean, he's always had it. He's always been faithful. He's always been wanting to know more and more about the Bible. But that really, I think, pushed him over the edge on everything, where he got to see it actually. It wasn't just a story; it was his life.
Yeah.
That he got to see it happen.
Yeah.
Right.
So Kai, I mean, what does that look like to you now as a young man? Like, do you have a prayer practice? Like, do you actually pray and practice and all this stuff? Because I think we hear so much bad stuff about, especially, in college, right? People falling away from their faith and not caring and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I will say that I grew up Catholic, and it was kind of like you have to do it. It kind of goes back to the accountability and the compassion and kindness
Yeah.
and doing things for people, and it felt like you had to. And for a long time, it was just kind of going through the motions with me. And I would go to my dad's non-denominational church, and I would scoff. I'd be a scoffer. There's a lot of
Oh, you're a
scoffing.
scoffer. Catholic
I was
snob.
like a
Yep.
Pharisee. Yeah. So
Pharisees.
I was I was like a Pharisee, but I would go there and I'd be like, "What do you mean you don't know about all the angels and what the USCCB says?" And it was a lot of stuff that when I look back on it, I don't necessarily agree with nowadays, but or I don't believe wholeheartedly. I can't get behind. And it was those type of conversations. Like, that was the thing. I always was open to conversations. I've always been very open to having a conversation about anything, and just talking about my faith, even being in that situation, whether it was in a Catholic mass or a Catholic school or at this non-denominational camp or non-denominational church with my dad. I was always talking about it, and I was always trying to figure it out. And finally, it started making sense to me in my 8th grade year, my last year at St. Paul. And then boom, the 2019 is actually when the stuff happened with my dad. And it was at that point where I watched God transform my dad. Um, my dad was somebody previously to 2019, and everybody that knows my dad before then and now will tell you that there was no hope for him. Um, he was so deep in his own sin and completely lacked accountability. And he would, if he was here, he would tell you the same thing. I'm not playing
Sure,
dad.
speaking out of turn. Yeah.
Yeah. But seeing that, and then seeing what it means, because my dad was a Christian for 7 years. My dad was a Christian. He started going to church in 2012, and then 2019. It's a 7-year span, and very similar to Moses, waiting until he's 80 to use him to free the Israelites. He waited 7 years and kind of exploded my family, kind of imploded, I guess. And it was at that point that I realized you can say you're a Christian and it looks completely different. Not saying that when you walk with God, everything's perfect. Not saying when you walk with God, you're going to have BMWs and Porsches and your kids are going to go to Princeton and it's going to be great. But knowing that hurt and that in the deep darkness in your life goes away and there is hope, I think that was the biggest transformation for me. And I actually got baptized again in 2023 after I graduated high school at my dad's church. And that to me was kind of my real profession of faith. Like proclaiming that like I choose the Lord instead of as an infant. There's nothing wrong with infantile baptism, but you don't get
we got to give you some protection until you get your brain in place.
That's it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was a major thing, and obviously, it's not like it's not like you're born again and then all of a sudden it's like everything's good, you don't sin anymore. But I think that we go back to like this world aspect that we keep referring back to. It's my world, but it's like I have an ecosystem in this massive thing that God has going on. And, when you look at it from that perspective, like a lot of the anxiety and a lot of the depression and a lot of the worry and this, oh my gosh, it really just kind of hushes out, and, you take things less personally when people hurt you, it doesn't mean you don't feel anything and that you don't care, but it's not an end all be all. It doesn't put a stamp on your existence and your worth. So I think that's another thing too, that I was looking all over the world to try to find my worth and value and, affirmation and validation and, similar to my dad for a while. And I think that seeing him really transformed my heart and allowed me to see God in a different light that I hadn't before. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how just things happen, because growing up, he'd always be like, I have this hole in my heart. Like something's missing.
Yeah, I was about 6 or 7 when
I used to always tell him like, well, that's you gotta fill it with the Lord. Like you've got to turn to God. And, as parents, we can just preach all we want and it's just we can't control it. And some hardships had to happen to him for him to actually realize how to fill that hole. And so, he journals now, some different Bible studies, and when he's here, he's been working at 6 a.m. so he hasn't had his morning time. But last year he took like that good 45 minutes in the morning just to sit with the Lord and the Bible and just kind of center himself before his day. So, which is
but you also have like 5-6 women praying over you all the time, Kai.
Right? Exactly.
Is that not normal? Is that not what I deserve?
Yeah, very blessed.
Like
very
the standards
blessed.
and the standards and the expectations are so high. They're so high.
But that's the grandparents, right? The great aunts. They're the first ones to be like, "Oh, he's not doing something great," like, but because you created this, like you created this. Facade of just
like, why does he want his towels warmed up when he comes out of the shower?
Oh,
my
mom.
No, you do not. No, you do not get warm towels.
Really happened. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
This is not my life. This is when he was, like when I was younger.
Yeah, right.
Like if I forgot a towel, you just drip dry, right? No, this one gets towels warmed up when he was younger. I was like, Mom, you're ruining it for every female in the future. You've got to stop.
Every woman from here on out. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We had a nanny at some point, and she was in baking school while also being our nanny. And she would make our boys like like from scratch, like cupcakes and cookies every day. And I had to We had to cut that one out. That was like, no, 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 no. That's not, we can't go with that plan. This is their weight. This is too spoiled, right? Cannot
Oh,
do that. But I
yeah.
hear you, the warm towels, right? Which again, everybody likes a warm towel. You know, you don't want to get a chill.
Good golly. And we lived in Florida, so come on now. Like,
Right?
what?
Oh my,
How cold does
come
it really get
on.
there?
How mollycoddled is that, right? Oh my.
He was, yeah, he
So
was it.
you needed a little iron sharpen iron on that. But I mean, Karla, you know, listening to that, I mean, Kai, it's just so incredibly beautiful and so well articulated. I mean, Karla, what have you learned from him? What do you
Oh,
think right now is the
everything.
biggest thing you've learned? Right?
Everything. Like, because I was a cradle Catholic, you know, and just seeing him and how he takes on everything. Like, that's why I went to St. Paul's Bible study, like walk with purpose, because I was like, this kid's kicking my tail when it comes to what's in the Bible. Because
You went for competitive purposes. You went for competitive.
exactly.
Oh, I love it. You're like, he can't know more than me. I'm going to study at
Right.
night, right? Like,
I was like, I'm getting whooped here by this little kid. Like, what?
and you're the cradle Catholic,
Yes, exactly. That's why I was like, oh my gosh. And it's,
and you're
you realize
competitive. So I
you
can
realize
see it
what
now.
exactly. Yeah, the competitiveness is there, control freak, all that fun stuff. Um,
I
but no,
love it.
it's been hard, but it's been great. And they say you have to go through the hard times to get rock bottom before you can go up, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I've turned to him, the Lord, more than I've ever in my life. I think through his challenges with Kai, because
Mhm.
to me, I can, like he said, we're pleasers. I can make anything better,
Yeah.
right? That's what I
Yep.
think, and that's what I tried. His mom, we always try to protect him, and that's why he said he got to
Sure.
learn more about me through his father, because I
Yeah.
was always covering up
Yeah,
what I
you were
didn't
doing
want him
double
to
duty for a
know.
lot of times, right? Yeah,
Yeah, or didn't want
sure.
him to see, or didn't want him to know. I wanted him
Mhm.
to have his relationship with his father as a father-son. And
Right,
so as soon as we
right.
moved, I got him a phone. I didn't want it to go through me. It needed to be his own relationship he built, because his father and I's relationship is not his relationship.
Right.
And so I didn't want to put things into his mind that may have hurt me in the past to jade anything that he looks at his father like. And so
Well,
even though I
that's
hid
huge of
those
you
things,
too.
a lot of those things came to fruition anyway, because the Lord's like,
Right,
this didn't happen for a reason. It's happened. He needs to see this.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's when he finally did see, and then just saw how his father is today. I mean, I don't, sometimes when I talk to his dad's name is Chris, I'm amazed, because I mean, I've noticed since I was 19. And so
Mm.
just to see these last 5-6 years and all he's
But
doing for him too, because he shows vulnerability in
right,
front of him.
right.
He is a man's man. Like, he's military, he's a cop, he's a CrossFit. I mean, he's that facade,
Yeah,
and so to show his son that he can cry over things or he can apologize is, it's
that's a
huge.
real man,
So yeah,
Right,
right? That's
right.
a real man. That's what a real man does. A real man can do all those things in
right,
one package, right? And that's okay. And we need that. And
yeah,
it's different than the mother role. I mean, you need to have both. That's why it's designed that way, right? But I was going
yeah,
to say, hats off to you, Karla, for having courage to let go and let them have their own relationship. Because a lot of people are very scared, right? You're afraid to have anybody else come in and like maybe alter that, or like, take them away from you or any of those things. So the fact that you understood that there's a special role for the father son relationship that's not the mother son, and not the right, not the previous
yeah,
relationship part of it. It's a huge part of it. It's huge because there's the marriage and then there's the children.
right,
Two different things, right? And I think too
mm,
much we blend them together, and they're not the same thing whatsoever,
right, yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And
So
I can
so
say, I look at my parents, because they were divorced when I was 2, and my mom. But before my dad passed, they were like best friends again, because they
mm,
truly loved each other. It just didn't work for them,
right,
So she never disrespected him or talked ill in front of us about him. Always made sure we, called him, and it was tough, because you don't want to put. And I did put that on Kai, where I was like, you're gonna if your father's not what you want, you're gonna have to make him into who you want him to be. It's
mhm,
basically, that's kind of what I did with my dad. I started calling on every Saturday, and I would be the one calling, because he didn't have that
He
father for
wasn't
him.
born. He wasn't
Yeah,
born.
he
yeah,
let his dad
got
show
it,
him how to be it.
right,
It's just like,
right.
come on.
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, so, on that note, I have a very good friend, and her parents got divorced when she was young, and both of them got remarried to other people, but I've never seen, it's one of the one time, they kept the children about the children and the parenting about the children, right? And then we're in agreement with that one. And it makes all the difference when people can separate that out and understand that. So, but again, it takes a tremendous amount of faith and a lot of courage to be able to do that and then understand how to, handle all those different dynamics going forward. It takes a lot of faith, right? It's a big walk in faith, hugely. Well, I mean, we're kind of coming up on time. I can't thank you enough. I want to end on a really light note, right? So tell me, like, favorite funny story between the two of you, or you could each do one.
I got a couple.
I see there's
Yeah,
many
he's
to
a good
choose
one.
from.
You go first then.
Oh man. I mean, there's so many times where like I make my mom pee herself.
Thanks.
Like she's laughing so hard she pees herself,
God.
and I do it to my grandma too. But yeah, I think just knowing that like I'm the funniest guy that she knows,
I'm such a mess.
I think no, but I don't know. I think that one of the best things was my dad came and stayed with us. Like my stepmom and my little half sister stayed, and I never told her this, so she might start crying. But just fair warning. But just watching her kind of let everything drop to the floor with my dad and my stepmom, and to just like be her, because her entire, not everything about her is me, but she bases her entire life on me as her as a mom, and that's a lot of pressure on me, as I've learned in
Yeah.
therapy. But also,
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
she doesn't really know herself either in that capacity of like, who is she? It's like, I'm 20 now, so the last 20 years it's been like, who is Karla Larson? And it's like, oh, it's Kai's mom. Her Instagram handle is literally Coach Kai's mom. So it's like not even her name.
Yeah.
So, and that's a shout out too. So go follow her if you're listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was like a small thing where, it had nothing to do with me, but I saw it, and I think that's something that I'm happy that I'm able to see, and that I'm happy that I'm able to experience. And also that I know that that's kind of what's happening now as I move away from her. Unfortunately, she's
he thinks he's moving like far away.
I'm running away,
and I told him I will follow you.
Right. What you don't know, Kai, she's moving to you. Right. She's moving to you. There, right. You can go wherever you want. She's just going to go follow you.
I'm just going to get a van, live by the river. I'm just kidding. Funniest thing about Kai. Oh gosh. I don't even. Oh, there's just maybe one Christmas my aunt was doing the laundry. We rented a house in New Jersey.
I think you're the elf outfit.
Oh, that was good. No. And she's just doing the laundry, and he, like we talk about the anxiety and the nervousness of things. We're in this house with all my family rented. He's going downstairs. I think he was like 5, and he was going to go get into the back room, which was the TV room by himself, which I think that in itself was like a big deal to him. So I think he's all in his head. And then my aunt's doing the laundry in this side room, and she just turns and says hi, and he just like went straight face down onto the ground. Like, like freaking,
just freaked out.
Spazzed out. In his head, he was just like, "I'm gonna make it to that room, turn the TV on," and because nobody else was up. He didn't know my aunt was down there in the side room.
Yeah,
I think that was the biggest thing.
Then she probably freaked out. She's like,
she was, then she probably laughed hysterically because she can't understand what happened. But I guess that's kind of a funny one. I remember. I'm sure there's plenty more, but.
Oh, it is. And I mean, that's one of the things there's definitely some particular threads that run through the mom sons that are close together. And one of them is humor. One of them is that the moms will tell you that, her son just cracks her up. Right. And then on some level, Kai, you probably think she's kind of funny too, or at least her stuff, you can make fun of it.
Oh, you don't even know. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Right.
I
But that's a
know.
coping
Oh, the
mechanism that it
laughing.
Yeah.
Were
brings.
my shoulders
She
going
goes
like
like
this?
this when she laughs. It's like
You
Oh,
the
get
funniest thing.
the shoulder shrug laugh.
and so he
But
loves to
see,
sit
then
over there and do it.
you'll always remember those things, right? I mean, like that's something that's just a thing. And but being able to laugh together is definitely just a really commonality I've found with the mother-son relationships of being able to have that kind of ability to make fun of each other, laugh at yourself, right? And be able to understand that. And, that I mean, it's very endearing. It's right. It's very endearing. And I think the older you get, the more you can break out those stories, right? I keep
Right.
thinking about one day at that wedding, I'm going to break out a couple of good ones.
Right? Absolutely.
Try not to tell them all before that so we can just embarrass the heck out of them. But yeah.
Yes.
All
Oh,
right. Well,
yeah.
any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to say for posterity's sake?
Uh, no, just thank you. This was fun. I mean, get to learn a little bit more about each other even after so many years, which has been
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's nice to kind of just share the story. People don't feel alone for certain things. We're all gifted in
100%.
some way, somehow.
100%. Kai, what about you?
Yeah, I'm just grateful to be here. Given the opportunity to speak, I love speaking. I love when people listen to me. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You do.
But
You grew up on warm towels, right?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
Your
Lord.
network contract is right here.
yeah.
Here we go. We'll syndicate, your checks in the mail.
Yeah, yeah, no, but in all seriousness, it's awesome to be able to talk about something I don't really get to talk about a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people know about me and my dad's relationship and our story, but not a lot of people know about me and my mom. And it wasn't perfect, and it's still not. And we're working to make it better every day. But I think that having an opportunity and giving a platform like this, and you giving the opportunity to other people, is just really great. So thank you.
Yeah, well, and you're already on your way to doing good work in the world there and making a positive impact. And I'll say more power to you. Keep it going. Bring more friends. I'm blessed enough to be a lector at church, and I will tell you, week after week, I see more young men coming in. It's incredible to me. It's a movement. Something is happening. Something is happening where the men are coming in and they're saying kind of everything you're saying, Kai. Like they're finding that purpose, they need the structure, whatever it is, and they're answering the call. So I think you've answered ahead of time, and thank you for really articulating your heart so incredibly beautifully. So thank you to both of you. I love you both, and I hope
Me
to see you
too.
soon.
All
Thank
Okay,
right.
you.
bye.
Thank you.